To the first video of the coverage of the 2018 election. And here we are. I finally learned how to do a 270 to win map on my YouTube channel, and I hope the audio is nice and crisp for y'all. Just bought a microphone over the weekend from Amazon. It was only about 15-20 bucks. There's one that Scotty Kilmer, who's a big he's an expert in car maintenance, has a YouTube channel, and his microphone he uses like 230 bucks. I'm like, yeah, it's a lot of dough. Okay, so this is the pretty standard par from the course of how things are looking right now for the U.S. Senate. I'm going to go through three different scenarios. I'm going to go through if, I'm a Republican, of course, because this channel is called the Conservative Pelican. But I'm going to go through three different scenarios. The first one is worst case scenario for the GOP. The second is best case scenario for the GOP. And then my final prediction will be right after the worst and best case scenarios. Okay, so if the GOP has a really bad night, they're going to lose Nevada. Okay, that's a gain for Democrats. They're going to lose Arizona. Okay, both those races right now are about the polling averages within. It favors GOP by about 2 to 3 points is what we're looking at. And then we have there, of course, the Democrats are going to keep Indiana. They're going to keep Missouri. They're going to keep Montana. And they're going to keep Florida. Okay. So we have a 50-50 split here. This, honestly, you look at North Dakota, that, honestly, I think is going to, even if the GOP has a really bad night next week, that is going to stay in Republican hands, because you look at where Kevin Cramer, the Republican nominee, is, where he's at in the polls for North Dakota, and he's been running away with the thing for about the last couple weeks now, since Kavanaugh was confirmed. Of course, Heidi Heitkamp did not vote for Kavanaugh's confirmation. That really hurt her, and there were some things on videotape that was captured too. So even if the GOP has a bad night, they're still going to pick up North Dakota. So then we look at Mississippi. That one, again, that Mississippi's been a red state for, I think the last person to win was Jimmy Carter there, so that's going to stay. Okay, Tennessee. This was one earlier on, again, before the Kavanaugh hearings. This was a seat that the Democrats thought they could pick up, because the nominee was former Governor Phil Bredesen, who left office with a 70% approval rating. His term ended, I believe, 2006 or 2010, somewhere around there. But again, it was 70%, one of the highest in the country at that time. But Blackburn has, her lead is up high single digits, like 6 to 8 points. So even if the GOP has plus early voting right now is 33% higher than it's up 33% from, I think, 4 years ago was what I saw in that state. And that state usually, since the year 2000, has been reliably red. So again, I mean, the GOP could get their butts kicked in Indiana, Missouri, out west. I still think the GOP is going to hold on to Tennessee. Okay. Then we have Texas. Texas is a state you would think that would be red. However, you look at change in demographics there. You look at some other. You look at where Mitt Romney won the state by I think like 12, 15 points, and then Donald Trump won by only 8 or 9 points. I mean, the margin of victory in Tennessee and West Virginia was higher than Texas. And you have a very charismatic, very popular candidate in Beto O'Rourke, a young candidate too, who's raised a lot of money. And the Democrats really, really have a good shot in Texas. And if, again, this is a situation where if the Republicans have a bad night, elsewhere, as I said before, Missouri, Indiana, out west, down in Florida, and so forth, I think that if they have a really bad night, and plus you look at where Ted Cruz has been in the polls, he's only been up by 5 or 6 points. He cannot get to double digits like Kevin Cramer is in North Dakota. So therefore, if the Republicans have a really, really bad night, I think they will lose Texas. Okay. So, worst case scenario, you have a very slim 51 to 49 majority. Okay. And again, remember, this is worst case scenario. This is not my official prediction, and this is not a best case scenario either. So, what is a best case scenario? Well, let's go ahead and say they're going to keep all the states they have right now. They're going to keep Texas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Arizona, Nevada. Okay, so all the other states that have and they're going to pick up North Dakota. Okay, so 51-49 plus North Dakota. That's where we're at right now. Okay, so if they have a good night, the first pick is going to be North Dakota, Missouri. They're going to pick up Missouri. They're going to pick up Indiana. Montana, Tester has consistently been ahead by about 4, maybe 5 points. But again, we're talking best case scenario. He did not vote for Kavanaugh, did not vote for the tax cut package. He campaigns all the time that he's a moderate to conservative Democrat, but that is not the case. They're going to pick up Montana. Okay. And then you have, right now the polls show, believe it or not, that the Republican candidate in West Virginia is ahead. So that's going to be a pickup. So we're at 56-44 now. Oh, but let's go down to Florida. Okay. Let's talk about Bill Nelson versus Rick Scott. Okay. Bill Nelson is he's supposedly, again, he's another one of these frauds that goes around saying, I'm a moderate, but the reality is he's very liberal, okay? However, he seems to be usually very popular in Florida for some reason. You look at his 2012 election results, and he won. I mean, he won, of course, down South Florida, did very well in Tampa and Orlando, but he also did very well up in northern, very Republican-friendly Florida, and also, Lake Sumter County, the Villages also did very well statewide. And the thing that he has going for him this year is this is supposedly, you look at midterm elections, they almost always favor the party out of power in the White House. So this year, Nelson's pretty much has everything going for him. Except the Republicans have a really strong candidate this year. In 2012, they did not. They had a congressman named Connie Mack who hailed from the southwest Florida, Naples, Fort Myers area, and just was not known very much statewide, and just, could not really get into that I-4 corridor much. That's the swing area of Florida. You got your very Republican, almost, you can cross state lines. It's the same as Alabama and Georgia, and Jacksonville's the biggest city in biggest city in South Georgia, they say. But yeah, Connie Mack just couldn't do it. But this year, the Republicans have Governor Rick Scott. And Rick Scott has seen his approval ratings go up in his second term as governor. And he's really done a good job. And this is just not my opinion. This is, Republicans and Democrats, of course, say he's really unified the state as far as what happened with Hurricane Irma last year. And, of course, he had the Parkland shooting earlier this year. He's really done a good job of kind of unifying the state. Plus, he's a billionaire. He owned hospitals before he was governor, and he has millions and millions of dollars in the bank. So therefore, if the GOP's having a good night, they're definitely going to pick up Florida. Okay, so we're at 57-43 right now. Okay. What else do we have? Well, Bob Menendez in New Jersey, okay? He's had some problems, a lot of problems with, sexual molestation charges and all that thing. Just some bad stuff. So when, we saw in Alabama last year, Roy Moore, Republican nominee in a very reliable ruby red state, again, had some allegations of sexual misconduct. And that was enough for that seat to flip to the Democrats. So, and again, 2017 was kind of a wave year for the Democrats, okay? Because Republicans, a lot of them were still kind of celebrating the fact that Donald Trump had just been elected president, and the Democrats called the Republicans napping a lot. So, if the Republicans are having a really good night, if everything's going their way, yeah, I could see them pick up a seat in New Jersey, okay? All these blue states right here, the ones that are dark blue, I really don't see the Republicans picking them up, even if they're having a good night, because this is just liberal country right here. And, ever since the 88 presidential election, there's really been a fine contrast between red states in the South and then blue states, along the West Coast and New England. There's always kind of been that contrast for the last 30 years. And again, in 2016, when the Republicans had a good year at the polls, still, they just cannot flip the West Coast, and they have problems in New England. So all this is going to stay Democrat no matter if the Republicans have a really good night, okay? Pennsylvania, a state Donald Trump won in 2016. The Democrat is Bob Casey. He has a reputation of a very moderate to conservative Democrat. He is kind of he's a guy who's well liked by both parties, and he is not a Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi puppet. So therefore, I have to keep Pennsylvania, even if everything else is going right for the Republicans. I have to keep that seat in the Democratic column. Ohio, Sherrod Brown. Ohio is a state that the Republicans won. Donald Trump won by like 8 or 9 points. I think if they're having a really good night, give them Ohio. We're at 59 seats right now. Okay. Minnesota. This is a state that's been trending red. Okay. Mitt Romney was able to get the deficit down from double digits to about a 5 or 6 point loss in 2012. Donald Trump only lost the state by like 2 points, I think. And you look at the biggest hope for Republicans in Minnesota is this region up here in the northeast part. We call that the Iron Gate. Okay, so what happened was This started flipping red in 2012. Obama only won by like 1 point here, but then Donald Trump was able to win by 15 points, okay? And there's a couple congressional seats, and I'm going to do a whole separate video on the U.S. House, so don't worry. I'm just giving you, a little gist right now on that. There's a couple congressmen in rural Minnesota that are up for election here that are Democrats, and that could very well lose in the congressional races. So I don't think the Republicans are going to be able to take both seats out of Minnesota, but I think, yeah, they could take one. So we're at 60-40, which is very good, because now we're at a filibuster-proof majority. So you might have a situation where the Democrats, they might pick up, they need 23 seats to flip the House in their favor. They might pick up 25 or 30. Well, I'm just saying how hypothetical. No, that is not my official prediction on the House. Okay, but let's just say hypothetical. They pick up 25 or 30 seats. They have like a very slim 3 to 5 seat majority. Well, what could happen is if you have at least 60 Republicans in the Senate, you can block everything the House does. I mean, yeah. So even if the Republicans lose the House next week, if they do really good in the Senate, I mean, they can still, help implement Trump's agenda. Okay. So, Wisconsin. Okay, no, let me first say this about Minnesota. You have an open seat race, and that's the seat I'm going to give the Republicans. That is the one that's between the lieutenant governor of Minnesota, who's a Democrat, versus I don't know who the Republican running is, but yeah, it's somebody good. And then in the other race, you have Amy Klobuchar, the Democrat, who is a very I've seen her speak on C-SPAN a few times. She's very eloquent, very fairly attractive. She's in her 50s, but she's fairly attractive. And, she comes across as really, believing what she's saying. And a lot of times in politics, that's what you need in a candidate. Even if you have one in Amy Klobuchar, who you're in a state that keeps trending more and more towards the Republicans and away from the Democrats. Okay. Wisconsin. Whew. Tammy Baldwin, again, she's a woman, incumbent Democrat. Scott Walker here has been consistently down in the polls. I'm going to have to keep, even though Donald Trump won here in 2016, I'm still going to keep that for the Democrats. Okay, now we're going to Michigan. Okay. You have another lady, Debbie Stabenow, Democrat, who's been in there for 42 years, a senator, longer than I've been alive. Her challenger is a very good candidate. His name is John James. He is an African American, grew up in inner city Detroit. Okay. The polls here, Stabenow was up by 24 points 1 month ago. There was a new poll that came out last week, and now she only leads by 7. There's another poll done today that shows her up by about 10. So this one, I'm going to call this right now. This is going to be if the Republicans are having a great night, they're getting West Virginia, they're getting a seat in Minnesota, and they're really kicking butt. Okay, yeah, my upset special is going to be they're going to get a seat in Michigan. Okay, so that is the best case scenario I think, for the Republicans. So we have 49 on the low end if they have a nightmare. They have a really crappy night. 49 seats is what they're going to be. Okay. 61 on the good. So let's go ahead and say that my prediction is going to be 55 is going to be our number at the end of election night. So therefore, we're going to go ahead and so I need to take away some of these seats. Let's say Menendez keeps his seat. Okay. And now let's say let's go ahead and say Michigan. Oh, okay, Ohio, Michigan, Minnesota. Okay. Honestly, I don't think I want to go any lower than that. So I'm going to say 57 for the Republicans, 43 for the Democrats. And you can look at the map and, see where all the seats are going to be. Okay. So, for the Conservative Pelican, I am Bobby Crawford. Thanks for watching.